Hey everyone, my name is Dakota Mann. I'm the production manager here at Hendersonville Theater, and I want to welcome Michelle Newman, our director for Private Lives. Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am Michelle Newman, and I have worked in and around the Asheville area for going on 15 years now in different capacities with theaters all over. Done a little bit of everything, heavily into arts and education and nonprofit administration, but then on the far more fun side is theater creation. So worked as an independent producer, director, designer in a bunch of capacities, and then actor every now and then.
And we've worked before on a few shows down on Tryon Way where it was we did two Shakespeare pieces. And something I noticed about you and why I brought you in to help do with Private Lives is because you have an experience and a love with classical text and being able to bring it towards the modern audience. Tell us a little bit about your craft when it comes to this.
Yeah, so we met, I believe it was an adaptation I did of Julius Caesar. We did it as the Ides. So we set Julius Caesar in a warehouse for a large distribution center that would probably be very recognizable with a smiley logo. So modernized it and put it in the context of a battle between pro and anti-unionizers coming into the building. So what I love about taking older pieces, classic plays, is finding that connective tissue with a modern story. I think that's what makes them really special, is the fact that we've been telling the same kinds of stories for 2,000 years in very similar ways. Shakespeare in particular is a love of mine. So, you take that 400-year-old story and you find the kernels of what makes it really salient for people today. And then as I tend to, once I find good people, I don't let you out of my clutches. So I've done a couple of really fun ones since then. Most recently was Midsummer Night's Dream. That one was largely the same text, but heavily cut down and the scenes reorganized and far more fairy mischief as much as we could possibly squeeze in. And that one was an immersive piece. So the audience moved through a venue down in Tryon with the actors. And so everybody got their own little piece of fairy magic. So anything that we can do to bring the pieces to life. One of the slogans that I've used is contemporary stories told through classic scripts.
Yes.
And I think that makes a lot of difference in how you approach the text, keeping it fresh, and especially with the older pieces that are public domain. It's kind of anything goes. You can imagine them in any way because the text is fair game for edits.
Absolutely.
So, but the fun thing about this one was when we first started talking about it, it was like, we could absolutely modernize it. What would it look like in the 21st century or with cell phones or that kind of thing? But then the more time we spent with the text and especially, preparing to direct it, I was like, this is just really fun as is. So like, hear me out. What if we did a play with the words the playwright wrote, set in the time period the playwright imagined? What a concept! So,
Wow.
because the script from Noel Coward is just so tight and well crafted, and the more we've worked with it, even up until the last week, we're still catching cross references in the play and callbacks and moments we're discovering that are even more dramatically satisfying than when we first read it. So it's one of those pieces that just gets deeper and deeper the more you read into it. And it's a goofy screwball comedy, so it's got a lot of layers to it. So as we were going about creating the piece, we decided to get more and more specific to the time period, because at first it was, what if it was modern? What if it was just vaguely mid-century modern and a little more nebulous? And then really honing in and having it in that late 20s, early 30s period just worked. It's just such a tightly knit piece that keeping it as is made the language sing. But now with that, these actors are also incredibly talented with bringing a naturalism to it and making you truly believe that this is real life happening right in front of your eyes. They've discovered some moments that lack kind of that, 1920s kind of cadence to it. You believe them. You believe the emotions that they're having, and they've brought it into the 21st century in a really fascinating way without adding cell phones, God forbid.
Yes. Talking about the actors there, let's talk a little bit about the cast itself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fresh faces, really, that I don't think a lot of people in Hendersonville will recognize. But let's go ahead and shout them out.
Yeah, for sure. So this, for me, has been really fun because the vast majority of this cast I'd never worked with before. So it's always fun when you walk into a room with bright new shiny faces. Also a little terrifying, a little intimidating. But we have Marilyn plays Amanda. She works with ACT as their resident costume designer. So she's got a fantastic costume background and has been invaluable in putting the pieces together for that. And then Colin is playing Elliot, and so he's fairly new to the area from Vermont, but has worked with Montford players before, and super talented. So they're our main couple, Amanda and Elliot. And then we have Gina playing Sybil, also a regular at Montford and around the area, and Elijah, who was a fun discovery for me. I've really loved getting to see his work. He's playing Victor for us.
Yes, I think people might recognize Elijah from Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yes, exactly.
As the protagonist, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Right. The good guy.
Yeah.
And then, so fun story for this one. Those are the primary couples, and we can talk about the plot, of course. But you have those two couples, high society French couples, and then in the original script, you have a maid named Louisa. Louisa has 12 lines, and when I first approached this story, I was like, do we really have to have a Louisa? Because it would work very well without including her in the onstage action, just referencing her. She's, a maid on the face of it. She provides the buns and does the feather duster, and then she's off. So it's like, well, if we change anything, we might lose Louisa. And then for the auditions, I had more people audition for Louisa than for the other characters. And so some really fun ideas popped into our head. So now we have Private Lives with 300% more Louisa. This one role has been spread amongst 4 actors, and not 4 that rotate, because like we had Clue not too long ago, and you had the double casting. So you had huge cast, but not everybody on stage every night. This time, no, we have the Leviathan Louisa, as we've started calling Borg Louisa. So this role is divided up, and each of them brings a really fun piece of personality to her, and makes it really engaging. And so with Private Lives, I guess you could say kind of the theme that's jumped out to me is Private Lives is the difference between what we think we're doing, what other people think we're doing, and what we're actually doing. And something lies within that third truth. And so this mixed up love story, I love having multiple Louisas as sort of a stand-in for the audience as we're seeing these private couples in their most intimate shenanigans, figuring out what they're doing with their love lives, with their relationships, how they interact with one another. And then you have just various iterations that can stand in for us and provide that little bit of levity and that kind of third-party viewership of what's going on.
Excellent. My last question I really have for you today is, what can the audience expect from this production in general, as well as do you have maybe a favorite moment you would like to share with the audience?
Ooh, some of my favorite surprises in the rehearsal process have been finding the really genuine emotions behind it, because it is a comedy. It's no coward. It's mile a minute. It reminds me very much of Oscar Wilde's dialogue, where it's just so fast-paced and clipped and witty and right on top of each other. And the premise is very silly. You have 2 formerly married individuals, Amanda and Elliot, that are honeymooning with their new spouses, Sybil and Victor, and just happen to be in adjacent suites and re-encounter each other on a balcony on the first night of their honeymoons with their new spouses. Flames are rekindled, they run off together, and shenanigans ensue from there. So it's very, very silly, witty dialogue, just absolute ridiculousness happens on stage. But then as we've discovered it, these guys are just finding heart-wrenching moments of genuine emotional connection. So layering those 2 together has been a really fun discovery. So that's definitely the favorite.
Excellent, excellent. Michelle, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Patrons, feel free to go ahead and buy those tickets for Private Lives right now on sale at hendersonvilletheater.org, running from March 13th through the 29th. We hope to see you here.